For years, our people suffered from cultural genocide and oppression from the European settlers. Such activities as the relocation of Native people from their land to land they are not familiar with and forcing them to move. When it came to boarding schools, they would make the children cut their hair, choose a Christian name, and would not allow them to speak their language. Many children were abused physically, mentally, and sexually. They would literally pull the kids away from their parents. It was a form of child trafficking because they would even sell them to people all over the country. Being Native was hard for me. My grandmother grew up in the late 20s and 30s, so it was worse to be Native American versus African American. So she would say she was white or Mexican. Identifying as a Native American was not a good thing because of how people would react. Their actions were cruel and scary. My grandmother was the last speaker of her people, and rarely would she share our teachings, culture, and traditional ways. It is sad because she has passed on, but through community, family, friends, I have learned. My grandmother would not openly share because of the fear of the history of her people. I remember her telling a story of her grandfather, Edward Callahan, grandson to Chief Redbird. He was murdered in front of his wife and children because he identified as Native American. So growing up Native American was not easy because of the issues that we faced as Native people, such as alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence. If it was not for my children, I would not have gone back to school to learn and get my master's degree, but also to learn my culture, my traditions, so I can teach it to my kids so they won't be lost as I was. Over the years, many Native people such as Sitting Bull, Geronimo, Crazy Horse, and my grandfather, Chief Redbird, fought against the United States and fought for their land. They fought to keep their traditional ways and cultural beliefs. Till today, many of these men's families are in hiding in fear of facing retaliation for their ancestors. Today, we still fight for our land as our relatives in the East, who have fought for their only water source when the U.S. has wanted to build an oil pipeline. Just like in history, we were shot with cannons, but they were shot with rubber bullets sprayed with ice-cold water during below zero temperatures, some with severe injuries, some even lost limbs. Being Mission Native, our people had to deal with fighting for their land. If they lost, they were pushed off of cliffs, shot and buried in mass graves, their body parts cut off. Pregnant women's babies were cut out of their womb, and I can go on and on. Scalping was a known practice amongst Anglos. They would hunt Native people for their scalp. People would advertise and pay $5 per scalp, more for men's scalps, triple the amount for a chief's scalp. When this would happen, they would call us Redskins, so the name stuck. At the end of the day, the point is we are still here. We are people. We still practice our ways of life as our ancestors. By following culture, ceremonies, talking our language, and practicing our traditions, we are still standing.